Welcome to Every Child Belongs. I'm Kim Botto, an adoptive mom, grandma, and advocate for kids and teens with disabilities, as well as a longtime leader of kids and student ministries. In this show, we explore how we can create spaces where every child feels heard and valued, whether neurodivergent, differently abled, or they've experienced trauma. Every child belongs. We'll hear from educators, parents, professionals, and more, finding practical ideas that help build a compassionate and supportive world for every child. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to Every Child Belongs. I'm joined by my new friend, Camille Robinson. She is the host of the podcast Moments of Joy, which she started way back in 2018. And the purpose of that podcast is for families raising children with special needs. And I love a quote that you have on there. You say, "My heart's desire for you, the listener, is that you are inspired to choose joy today." And you have 3 sons, right?
I have 5 sons.
5 sons. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I lost 2 of them. Okay, you'll have to tell us about them.
Yeah, yes.
And one of them, Mason, was born with a congenital heart disease, and he was later diagnosed with autism. And you are an advocate, you're an encourager, and you build community, especially among caregivers of kids who have disabilities or special needs.
Absolutely.
So what did I leave out other than I missed 2 of your sons? What else do you want to tell people about yourself?
Oh my gosh, I'm a wife. I love the Lord with all my heart. I just it's so many things. I hate going down the list of things. I start cringing. People are always like, "No, no. Don't go ahead and
Do it.
say what you
Do it.
you do." But, you've hit everything, the nail in the coffin. I think the newest thing is that I'm a soon to be published author, just recently signed to Penguin Random House, so that 90-day devotional for parents raising children with special needs will come out in March 2026. I'm really proud of that. It was hard.
Yes, it is hard, and I'm proud of you too.
Thank you so much.
Well done, and I know a lot of people will benefit from that.
Thank you.
So, let's talk about your podcast.
Mhm.
You started in 2018 for families raising kids with special needs. Why did you start that podcast?
Well, originally in 2018, it was a podcast called Moments of Joy, but it was a Christian woman podcast, actually.
Oh, okay.
During 2021, about 2021, end of 2020, I pivoted. I kept the name Moments of Joy, and I started to just talk about special needs parenting. I noticed that it was such a desire to hear that topic. So I was like, I think the Lord is leading me to go this way. So I just followed and leaned into families raising children with special needs.
Yeah, so I mentioned you have a son with special needs. Tell us more about your family and your journey as a mama with a kiddo who would not be described as typical. Amazing, funny, bright,
Yeah.
but not typical.
Mhm. So I have 2 children with special needs. One, my older son, he's 18, but he has dyscalculia, which I would have never even known. We got him diagnosed so late at 16. He was just about 16. But if it wasn't for Mason and everything that I had gone through with him, I would not have even thought about getting him evaluated. For what? Kenneth was kept having some trouble in math, and more so it was appearing like he was fooling around in class. So I got him tutoring, and that didn't help. And that was the only class where his teacher would always email or, say Kenneth wasn't doing well. So I finally said, let me just get him diagnosed before I put him on punishment.
Yes, good idea.
So I did. And lo and behold, he has dyscalculia, which is a math learning disability. And so that is my youngest right before Mason, who was born with congenital heart disease, like you said, has autism and newly discovered intellectual disability. And I have 3 older children. So a house full of boys, but they're all grown now. So my oldest is 23, 21, 20, 18, and then we have Mason,
Mhm.
who's 8 years old. So we
Right.
kinda started over there. I always say that I thought I knew everything about motherhood and parenting when we had Mason, But having him caused me to crumble everything I thought I knew, and this book is another playbook. This is a totally different thing than typical parenting.
Well, you're talking about the book. Oh, the book as far as not the book you wrote. I was thinking
The
about the
book
book
of
you wrote.
parenting that's
The book of
invisible.
yes. Yes, it is. And now the book that you wrote though is faith-based. It's devotion.
Mhm.
It's a group of devotions. So tell me about how your faith played in to your navigation of this new book of parenting.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm known for resources. I'm known for sharing. And, every time I find something, I share with my community and just really raw vulnerability. But I really felt a deep conviction to not hide this other part of me. I've been saved since I was 21. I gave my life to the Lord when I was 21. I'm 40 today.
Happy birthday.
No, thank you so much.
Oh,
Not today. I'm
oh,
sorry, in
okay.
July.
Okay.
I turned 40 in July, but I'm 40 now. And I really felt one day in prayer, how dare I keep who I know gives me peace? How dare I keep the sustainer of all to myself? How dare I not show them the greatest resource that there ever could be? I can give you all the resources of the world, but you need to know that God is with you along this journey, that He chose you. You are not cursed. Your child is not cursed. Your child is perfect. So I really just went, deep diving into those areas that we all know so well in this community that we don't speak so much of, but tying it into faith
Mhm.
that God sees us, He's with us, and all those things.
I appreciate how you do that, and I just wanna call out, if you're a parent of a kid with differences, special needs, disability, there's so many different ways of articulating that. Camille, you are amazing in the things that you call out. Like, you just did a post on get an advocate.
Hmm.
A lot of parents don't know that. As an adoptive mom, I didn't know that for the first couple
Hmm.
years my kids were home. How to get diapers, how to get the handicap placard for your car. So, yes, a whole bunch,
Yes.
and you do point to your faith too.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your faith for a minute more, because you just the other day you posted one of the things I appreciate about you is how real you are. You don't sugarcoat it.
Yes.
So you have faith, you trust God, and you also said, I don't always embrace autism.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I wish our reality was different. This road isn't easy. So tell us about that.
So we know that autism is a spectrum. It's going to present differently for everybody. But as my son grows, he's 8, I realized that we do not have this cute, quirky, funny type of autism. We have the very hard autism. And that, you know, I don't wish that we have sometimes, which can come about sleepless nights. It's, getting him to eat food, which he is so picky with, the types of food he will eat. It's communication, right? When he comes home from school, and I'm like, "How was your day, Mason?"
Mhm.
You're not gonna hear anything. You just have to rely on God and the teachers, and just being a mom of 4 other boys, and now having to walk this out with your last one, you just know what it feels like to have a typical child. And I don't want him to live in a world where he's looked at as ugly and disgusting, but that's the harsh reality. Some people do view disabilities in that way. And so part of the reason why I have a big mouth about this topic is not just for the community of parents, but for people who do not know anyone. You don't know what it looks like, and you just judge so harshly when you really have no idea what it takes
Right.
day to day.
Right. Well, and that's why we do this podcast, because just as you said, some people aren't in close proximity.
Mhm.
So we want them to hear stories. So maybe next time they are in closer proximity, they will be more compassionate and kind and won't make a comment about an 8-year-old in a stroller, which sometimes Mason's in a
Absolutely.
stroller because that's what's best for him. I'm really passionate about making the church be a place for every kid.
Mhm.
And how I got to know you was back in June. You posted a video. You had gone to church It was a church who'd advertised that they had special needs, and you had an encounter that left you in tears. So can you tell us about that? And I know you and I are both on the
Yeah.
same page. We are
Yeah.
not about bashing churches. What
No.
we are about is raising awareness so families like yours can find a
Mhm.
place in the church.
Yes. Because if you notice when I shared that video, I didn't say, "The church is here, the
Yep.
name is here." It wasn't
Yes.
about that. It was a clarion call to believers across this globe to make room for these children. When you come down in the Bible Belt, I'm in Texas, there's a lot of special needs ministries. But where I'm from, in Connecticut, the East Coast and northern states, you might find a few and far between ministries that are dedicated to children with special needs. So the process kind of started with my church home. I was going to church with my son and my family, and it was becoming just increasingly difficult for him to make it through the sermon. So we're in the black church, Pentecostal, and
Mhm.
it can get loud and hooping and hollering sometimes, and he didn't know how to differentiate that this pastor is not yelling at me, he's speaking to all of us. So he
Mm.
would get really overstimulated with the lights, with the music, and so I started to leave him at home. And then one day my husband was like, I think it's time for us to find another church. And we need to find a space that focuses where their children's church has space for special needs children. My older church, they did, like many churches, accept Mason into the children's ministry. But when I went to peek in, he'd be stimming loudly in the corner, disrupting the Bible study session that was going on for the other children. So he really wasn't learning anything. So I went on the hunt for special needs ministries that are within churches. And this is places that are cultivated for them to teach them in their way about the gospel. So we went to visit one, and he was afraid to go in the door and started crying a little bit, which, this was before I made a commitment to bring him everywhere in his stroller.
Mhm.
And so he was tugging away, and so I spoke to the woman for 10 minutes before we even came to visit the church to tell her all about Mason. And when we arrived, she kind of took a look at him and was like, we kind of really don't have children like him. She didn't know what to do with him. So I offered, hey, I can come with him the first 3 or 4 times to help him get used to the children's church. And she was like, I don't know. And then we went back and forth for about 10 minutes, and I started crying. And I was like, wait, I'm begging for my child to come to church. And I said, what about other families that are like mine? She was like, well, we don't take all children. We really only take more high functioning children. And so I was like, you know what? It's okay. We're going to leave. And as I walked away, I'm still bawling. I'm crying. My
Right.
heart isn't really breaking for Mason because I know the Lord. I play children's church music at home. I teach him about Jesus through music, and I play it every day when I play these children's church songs like Father Abraham has many sons, the songs I grew up on, and I play them on the way to school for him. So I know how to impart that into him. But my heart broke for people who are not rooted in Christ like me, and those that would have just, sometimes we just have one chance to make an impact. And what would have happened if I was that person
Right.
who didn't know God? And so I just recorded that video to say we need spaces for children with special needs. We 90% of families that have children with special needs do not attend church. That is a major disparity.
Yes, it is.
That is a major need above feeding the homeless, above a food pantry. It needs to be a priority in churches that have outreach. Even if you are not able to have a special needs ministry, maybe you have a small church, but maybe you make a sensory box. Maybe, you have one day a month where, you know, you do something for your community in your area. There's so many creative ways, but I feel like it's a 911 emergency that churches and believers know that this is a problem.
Yes, I think a lot of churches don't know. And your video really helped a lot of churches know. I sent it to friends who live in your area, And I know you got a great response. So tell us about the response you got from churches when you posted that.
You would not believe. I am compiling a list. I still have about 50 names to put on the list, but I'm at 153 churches
Oh my
around
gosh.
the nation that do have special needs ministries. So I'm going to share the list and keep it in the link in my bio for parents and family members that are looking. But then others are like, you know what? We want to do something. So, of course, you get the negative comments of people like, why don't you keep your kid with you? And
No.
why don't you worry about your child? But overall, it was compassion. It was, my church has this ministry. It was, we would love to have you. What can you do? We got a phone call from Champions Club,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Lakewood, at Lakewood Church with Pastor Joel Oldstein. They called through Instagram for us to come visit their special needs ministry. And what I loved about their ministry is that they plant these ministries, champions clubs, all over the world.
Yes.
There's 138 of them all over the world in 38 different countries. And so there are many different models outside of the Champions Club. There's the All-Star Club. There's so many different places that can help churches and financially help you get your ministry up off the ground. They're not just saying, "Hey, let me teach you," but they're saying, "We'll fund you as well."
Mm-hmm. Well, I am so thankful for so many churches that reached out to you. I'm thankful that you found some places that you could attend.
Mhm.
And that video really helped elevate the problem. It's a problem. And you did it, and Camille, you did it in such a respectful way.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, you didn't show the church building. You didn't say who it was.
Mhm.
As we continue today's episode, I wanted to let you know that if you're looking for more resources, strategies, and encouragement for making sure every child belongs, head over to our website at kimbotto.com. Sign up for the newsletter to receive exclusive content and insider info on future episodes. Don't miss out. Go to kimbotto.com and join today. So, Camille, your faith is very important to you. So important that I know you write Bible verses in Mason's backpack.
Mhm.
I think that would be inspiring to other parents. So tell us why you do that.
Yeah, as a form of, affirming him and making sure he was covered on top of praying, I wrote a scripture inside his backpack for so many reasons. I thought, okay, well, when he goes to school, his teacher's going to know what kind of family he comes from when they open his book bag and take his things out. Also, because he's nonverbal, I don't really know. He's 8. I don't really know what he knows. So I still just try to pour in where I can. And so even showing him what's on the inside of his book bag was important to me so that he's able to identify scriptures, So, he might never say it, but recently we went away to camp and we had this experience. A little boy, I was talking to his mom. He's sort of quadriplegic. He has cerebral palsy. He has some movement in his hands, but he's unable to talk and he's nonverbal. I was talking to his mom in a conversation much like we are, and Tanner is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He had a speaking device and his hand that could barely move typed a couple of sentences to finish his mom's sentence because he joined in the conversation with us.
Yes.
He said, we drive back and forth to Houston all the time. I was shocked, and he reached out and nudged me, and I said, hey, Tanner, and he wanted to give me a hug.
Mm.
So I reached in and gave him a hug, but that let me know that although there are no words coming out of their mouth, they are people, they understand, they have feelings. So that encounter this weekend just solidified for me everything that I'm doing for Mason. He may not be able to say it out of his mouth, but I just believe that everything I'm imparting into him, just like my mom imparted into me as a kid, I may have gone astray, but I came back. And so that foundation is set. So that's why I write those scriptures as well.
You're presuming competence,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Camille, you talked to a whole bunch of families who are on a similar journey to yours. What do you want parents who are or others who aren't parenting, who are parenting typical kids?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want them to know?
I would like them to know, especially if you have a family member of a child with special needs that it's not the same journey. I would love them to just be careful with advice, you know, be careful with questions. Sometimes advice could seem like it's okay. My aunt called me and she said, "Hey, you need to potty train that boy.
Mm.
You need to potty train your son." No, really? I mean, I potty train for other
I've,
kids.
right.
I think I
Right.
know what I'm doing. This is a different road. I want them to know those moments hurt deeper than you know. So when you hang up the phone and you're done and you're gone and you walk away, or you may look at someone a certain way and you leave, those moments stick with the parent and they hurt. And they sort of it can either push them into isolation or push them into judging themselves more harshly as a parent. So it's not easy. It's not an easy journey, but my greatest thing is always hold the judgment.
Right. Well, which makes me think, you said hold a judgment. I think hold the advice most of the time too.
Mhm.
Like even the question, Camille, of course you would love for your 8-year-old to be potty trained.
Oh.
Him not being potty trained adds tasks to your list.
Mhm.
So, yeah, do you think we should just not give advice?
No, not unless someone asks.
Yes.
My friend, she's homeschooling, and I stopped myself from sending her videos that I saw. And I stopped myself in the same day when she said, "You know what, Camille? I'm so overwhelmed. Everybody keeps giving me advice." And I was like, wow. See?
Yes.
Good job.
So there you go. So unless
Yep.
asked,
Mhm.
don't give it.
Don't give it. Don't give it.
You'll ask if you need to.
Mhm.
I know you've got a big community around you. Maybe we can learn from if you tell us when somebody just unexpectedly was there for you, showed up for you.
Mhm. I will never forget this person. Her name is Naqueva. We were never really friends at all. When I had Mason, he was born with congenital heart disease. He had heart surgery at 5 days old to fix a coarctation in his aortic valve. So as a baby, they cut through his rib and he had heart surgery. He had to have a second one at 5 months old because that area was starting to close again. So they needed to go in with a balloon catheter to open it up again. And at almost 2 years old, he had open heart surgery. So those were very difficult times, but she contacted me on Facebook and she said, "I made a quilt for your son because I had shared he was going to surgery." And she knitted a quilt for Mason to go into surgery. And this was his second one when he was 5 months old. That meant so much to me. We still have the quilt today, but I didn't know her. But that act of kindness let me know she saw me and, she was sending her love and her prayers with us. But
Mhm.
that meant everything for us 8 years later to still have that blanket in his closet.
Yes.
So, I think, you know, to show up and let somebody know you see them, it could be in Starbucks one day, just passing a $10 Starbucks card or just passing a note to say, "I hope you have an amazing day." Kindness just goes a long way.
It sure does. Kindness and no advice. There you
Mhm.
go.
There you go.
As you have parented Mason, as you and your husband have parented Mason, how has that affected your relationship and your friendships?
Woo, child. I feel like this is a topic that a lot of parents don't talk about that are married, but there is a high divorce rate amongst parents that have children with disabilities. It's about 80%. Why? It's because things are different. Me and my husband in December, we had to start having hard conversations and making commitments to each other all over again. We just reached 10 years married.
Hmm.
And so 10 years married outside of having a child with special needs, you're going to have, hit some difficult roads. But parenting a child with special needs adds another layer because you don't have anyone a lot of times that you can trust to say, "Hey, it's Friday night. We want to go out on a date." No, you know, we want to go out we want to go away for a week on a vacation with each other. No. So these normalcies that a couple would have, we've had to learn how to maximize the days that he's in school or all the children are not with us. And just really have conversations and open communication, and share how we're doing, good and bad, is really not easy. Just allowing my husband the space to say, oh, it's hard. Mason's, you know, all over the place. Sometimes we're like, hey, get down off the counter. Mason, close that door. Get over here. No, my son's very active. So it can be a mental toll on the individual, let alone the marriage. So where,
Sure.
you want to have intimacy at the end of the night, you may be depleted on another level.
Hmm.
We didn't sleep in the same bed a lot because my son didn't sleep through the night. That didn't come consistently until 7 years old because he eloped. And we could not risk him getting up in the middle of the night. One day I got up, it was 4:30 and he was up. And I didn't know he was up. He could have gone out the door. And so for a long time, one of us had to sleep with him. So those things can take a toll when you look at how other marriages are, and you think you're supposed to be this way. I think for marriages, it's just important to um, know that this is going to be your own specific personal road. It may not be easy, but try to hang in there.
Hmm.
It's best to be a team when you have two team members that are willing to help. When there's no toxicity, right? We're not talking about toxic
Right.
relationships, but it's best to be a team instead of calling it a quits. Um, in this road in parenting.
Yeah, when you mentioned eloping, for those who don't know, that's when a kid just gets up and leave. Basically, they're a flight risk.
Yes, they are.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the stress that comes with that, where you have to be hyper vigilant
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Now, what about, so yeah, your marriage is work. You have to be very intentional. What about friendships outside of your marriage and relationships outside of that?
I'm thankful for relationships outside of that. My friends always tell me they have learned so much about autism and autism families, and not judging even the person in the grocery store because of what I've shared. So I hold my friendships very dear. They understand, and it's important, just like you have your relationship with their spouse, to let your friends know what's going on too. Let them in, because hey, if they don't hear from you for 2 weeks or however long, they know that she's doing what she needs to do in her house for her. Also, my friends, I started this thing called Mental Health Monday, maybe like 2022.
Uh-huh.
So every Monday, I remind my community to prioritize themselves, but then I also go to therapy, and I also do something I love. That could be having kava for lunch. That could be watching a TV show. I like sunflower seeds. That could be eating sunflower seeds, like the smallest thing to make sure I'm grabbing the moment of joy. And that is unintentionally wrapped in the cliche of my name, but it really is holding on, because one day I went out with my friends to lunch. I came home. I just had a really good time. When I came home, my son had a meltdown, a really strong meltdown. It lasted for a long time.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, I don't feel as bad on the inside as I would have if I didn't take a moment for myself. I am very proud of myself this year, 2025. I started anxiety medication. And I started that because I've gone through this journey of parenting special needs on edge, diagnosed with PTSD, and really, really just having anxiety all the time and being strong, just dealing with it. Just,
Right.
one time my husband came home and he found me, I was laying flat on the floor and I was fine. I was just breathing deep. He was like, "Why are you on the floor?" I'm like, "Mason had a meltdown for about 3 hours and now I have anxiety and he's fine." So I finally went to the doctors, and I noticed that, you know what, I need to talk to the doctor now. I was in an IEP meeting. And I was fighting for my son to receive music and art. I had hired an advocate, and the school says, we're going to bring our lawyers, and this is for music and art.
Right.
And so I was sitting on the couch and I started getting a headache and I started feeling a little dizzy. I was like, what is that? Well, I went to the doctors. I called the doctors the next day
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I called my mom and I was like, I'm so proud of myself. I feel so much better. And I just had so much negative thoughts around medication, especially anxiety medication. Just being an African American, we don't do that
Mm.
in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even talk about medicine and let alone therapy. I feel like we're coming to be more acceptant of therapy and speaking about mental health, but definitely not medication. But I told my mom I was so proud because I felt so much better. And I was like, how I went through this for so many years. I could have cut out years of anxiety. And for me, it was physical. It was my chest beating, headaches, sweating, and just all the things. So I finally was like, okay, I'm not gonna do this by myself. I know I pray every day. And I also was over spiritualizing it too. I also was like, I'm gonna fast, I'm gonna pray this away. And after doing that so many times, I was like, "This is not spiritual. Go to the doctors, Camille."
Yeah, we can do both. And thank
Yep.
you for being real about that because I think
Mhm.
for some reason, especially around mental health, we think we just need to motor through, pray more, read more of the Bible every day.
Yep.
And sometimes what we need is medication.
That's
We
right.
can need both. So thank you for being real about that.
You're welcome.
I want to ask you about a post that you made where you had gone to, I guess it was Mason's IEP this year, and you were so excited that they didn't have a
Mhm.
calm down room because you were very upset that they had a calm down room.
Yes.
So tell me, because I know there's a lot of thoughts about should kids be included, should they
Mhm.
not? So
Mhm.
tell me about, I want to hear about the calm down room.
Yes, so Mason is in special education, a self-contained classroom. So what that means is he's not around general education or typical parents. He's typical children. He's around children that have autism and severe autism like him. So I went on a tour for back to school, meet the teacher day, and she showed us the classroom. We went to another room, which was the sensory room. We went to their motor lab room and everything was nice. And then she opened the door to the calm down room, which was to me, my mom said, Camille, you watch too much TV. But I was like, well, then how would I have known what this
Mhm.
calm down room was? And it was like a psychiatric ward to me. It
Oh,
was a padded room.
oh.
The walls were padded, and there was nothing in the room but padded walls. And she said, "This room is for children who might be hitting someone else, and we can't calm them down, or they tear up the classroom." Mason's not aggressive like that, or has never had that behavior. But still, I was terrified at the thought of a child going in that room.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, no." Oh, it tormented me for days until finally we went to the IEP meeting and I brought up the calm down room. I was just gonna say, state in the meeting that he was not to go in there and come up with a plan for if he ever needed to. But the principal said that the district had already done away with the calm down room. And I just, after that meeting, I was like, God, I thank you because you sent someone before me. It wasn't my
Mhm.
advocacy that did it. It was another mom that
Mhm.
called and made the fuss. So while I was planning, God sent someone to do the work for us. So he had already gone before, he had already made the way straight. I was like, I thank you because I worry so much about Mason because he's not potty trained, because he's not verbal and he has to be in school.
Mhm.
And so you have to put your trust in people who are not always they don't always have your child's best interest at heart.
Yeah, that's very difficult, and that's another stressor that parents like you have, that parents of typical kids might not understand because their kid can
Mhm.
come home and tell them
Yeah,
what happened, and they can talk through it. So
absolutely.
and, that's another thing I always tell parents, if you're at the school and you see a kid who's nonverbal, or go home and text the parent
Hmm.
and tell him, I saw him eating his peanut butter sandwich in the cafeteria and he was having a great time,
Yeah.
because you don't hear those stories. Well, Camille, thank you for the work you do. Thank you for the advocacy. Thank you for being real. And I know sometimes you get some flack for being real, but please, Camille, keep being yourself, because I know so many moms who feel comforted by your words, because it makes them realize that there's not something wrong with them. Just what they're
Yes.
going through is really hard.
Yes.
We like to end this with just a couple rapid fire questions, which
Okay.
I know you'll be great at. So here's a couple. What is your favorite family tradition?
Oh, my favorite family tradition is always Christmas time, setting up the Christmas tree. I
Yes.
usually put music on and we have some type of holiday snack, but that's always our favorite. And this year, when we set it up, Mason started singing and he was saying, Santa Claus is coming to town. That's why I was fighting for music for Mason because that's the only way he speaks through music.
He loves it.
And
Yeah.
I looked at my husband, he looked at me, and we were like, "He gets it. He understands."
That's a big victory. That's a big
Yes.
win.
Yeah.
So I'll be thinking of you at Christmas time with all your
Thank
family
you.
traditions. Okay, it's the morning. Coffee, tea, or something else?
You know what? I normally have coffee, but I just told myself 2 days ago I was gonna go back to green tea and honey because I have my coffee with creamer, and it's so much sugar,
Yeah.
so I have to cut back.
Okay. Okay. Good luck with that green tea. I love
Thank
green
you.
tea. Okay, you're driving. What are you listening to? What kind of music, podcast? What are you taking in?
I'm listening to gospel music. So I have a station on my phone from Apple Music. It's gospel, so it just shuffles the top hits in gospel.
Love that. Okay, you're all about joy, Camille Joy. Where are you finding joy right now?
Oh my gosh, I'm finding joy in the little things, the smallest things. But more recently, one of the biggest things I'm finding joy in is reading. I have never been a big fiction reader, but I started reading fiction. I love romance novels.
Mhm.
And so I think I started in June. I'm in love, love, love with reading. So reading fiction.
Nice. That is a great way to relax and wind down.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is the last one. Finish this thought. Every child,
Deserves love.
yes, they do.
Mhm.
Well, I really appreciate you being with us. Camille, is there anything that you would like to leave, any encouragement that you would like to leave with the listeners?
Yes, I would just like to say that, you are seen, um, you are resilient. If you are a parent raising a child with special needs and you are listening, no matter where you are on the globe, find your community. It can be online, it can also be in person. So, Facebook is a great place to look for support groups that often meet in person. So, don't stay out there on a little island by yourself. Find 1 or 2 people that you can call on your worst days
Yes.
that you can get, some encouragement from.
Yes. God created us to live in community, no matter what the circumstances of our life. So, Camille, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, on Instagram, TikTok, I'm under Moments of Joy podcast, and I'm on Facebook under Camille Joy, and or you can go to my website at mojpodcast.com.
MOJ for Moments of Joy,
Yes.
podcast.com. Great. Camille, thank you so much. I just really appreciate you a ton.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Every Child Belongs. If you found today's episode helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to share this with a friend who might need to hear it. Together, we can create a world where every child belongs.